take that when the stuff falls off a mood ring, it's just black, and so
Yeah.
now it just looks like a black bronze ring.
Yeah.
But if it had the whatever on it, it
Yeah.
was a mood ring.
You'd see the
What color would it be?
I don't know how those things work. Green, I guess, right?
I normally wear one. I swapped it out for the pearl today. I would totally pass it on, and you could tell us your mood.
You just have to figure it out some other way.
Hey everybody, it's St. Patrick's Day.
Yay!
I hope that at some point you don't pass out during our broadcast, nor do we pass out while we're doing it. But that being said, welcome to the Business Squad. And today we have a special guest. And our guest, she'll introduce herself when we get around to her. We'll do our usual shout outs though and go round robin like usual. And we'll start with you, Mr. Szymanski. Tell people what you do.
I am John Szymanski with Coca-Cola Financial and a proud member of the Business Squad, and I am your independent health, life, long-term care, disability insurance advisor, and I specialize in small groups. So I'm here to help.
That's a commercial.
60 second.
That's a commercial.
I don't know if I got 60 seconds. I'm Rachel Evers, real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Town and Country out of Brighton, Michigan. And what details do you want?
Did you commercial real estate, private? Or
I
residential
dabble,
rather?
so I do property management for commercial clients.
Okay.
I do have a commercial listing, but my specialty is residential real estate.
It's okay, it's all good.
Okay.
True.
Cool. All right. I'm Ben Van Gelderen. I'm the legal eagle of the Business Squad.
A rugby player.
Yeah, and a rugby player.
On Thursdays.
Most of my background is in healthcare law, but I've also been doing a lot of business law lately, and I do a lot of contract work, especially for small businesses, small business owners. So, the people that the contracts that aren't 100-page documents, but are just 2 pages between a couple of companies trying to get work done. That's my wheelhouse.
Good.
James Lewis, financial guru here at the squad. So my job is to make your numbers work. At the end of the day, when you get down to adding up your 2's plus 2's, just make sure they equal 4, not 3, because you don't want to lose a number. Never lose them. And my job too, actually, is to help you coordinate everything within your structure. So think of me as the quarterback here with making sure the numbers work right, from the planning top side all the way down to the itty-bitty pieces in between. We'll drag in our CPA. They'll beat them up to make sure the tax man's in line and everything else that needs to be done. But that's my job here at the squad.
My name is Ellen Patnode, and I'm the coach.
Yay! Coach is with us today! Woo! She's back in Germany! Yay!
I'm actually a light bulb changer, and I help change people's light bulbs either one-on-one individually or in groups and teams, thinking about how they manage change and how they create alignment within their organizations.
Excellent.
Welcome someone in the door.
I'm Dave Thoreau with HIA Highland. We're a independent property and casualty insurer. And
Hey.
visitor, welcome.
Yeah.
And we write liability, workers' compensation, all business and personal insurance. Represent over 15 companies. To be the one representing you in a world where you don't know what the rules of the game are, that's what we do, is we make sure that you're covered, make sure that your assets are covered.
All right.
Because it doesn't matter who writes your insurance until it does.
I've heard
Tell
that
me about it.
before.
That's a fact.
I've run
If you've
into
ever
that.
had an incident,
That's right.
house fire or something, you don't know what you have until.
So we have a studio audience step-in guest here from last week, and that's Tom off camera. And so he's in the back. If you hear him speak up, that's one of our studio members that are here with us today as a guest. So this week's topic is actually real estate, hence why our expert is with us today, because she's going to guide us through all the myriad of issues regarding real estate. She knows everything. And as you guys got the rundown this week, we talked about some of the things in comparison, lease versus buy. As a business owner, you got to make that decision at some point, which direction to go with. Like us here even, we lease this space that we're in now. And there's reasons for it financially, which I could go into. But we're going to kind of t-ball it to you to say, as a realtor, what's your opinion, for the consumer or the business owner?
Yeah, so my
What's better?
Yeah, right.
flat out, it depends on your situation.
Always.
and what you
I
need.
knew you were gonna
It's a
say
custom
that.
answer for every client, honestly. My heart wants to say buy because I believe in real estate as an investment, but that doesn't mean that it's the right answer for you or you or you or your business. So there are liabilities, much like owning a residential home, there are liabilities that come with owning your property. If you're running your own business out of that property, there's also an element of commercial real estate as an investor. If you are purchasing a commercial property to put tenants in, it's a completely different point of view from, should you rent the building you're operating out of or buy it. Does that make sense? Long-term strategies matter.
So where do you start when you're trying to answer that question?
Cash flow.
Nice.
Okay, Rachel, thanks for that answer.
Well,
No, what's the first? Is that
Honestly.
the first place you look? Is money? Is like where when somebody comes to you and says they're trying to figure out if they should rent or buy?
It's got to be an important element. If you're going to buy a commercial piece of property, you need a big upfront investment. You may not have that, but you still need space, right? You could strategize long term to buy the space that you're operating out of. I don't know.
So it sounds like
Yeah.
that's. I mean,
I mean,
Is that
money's
the biggest
important.
thing? Yeah.
Long term, location. Are you operating where your end goal? Is that your end game? Do you
Right.
have another plan for the property if you plan to move out of it? I mean, there are a lot of questions you could.
So it's not easy.
There's no
right?
easy
Right,
easy
there's no
Yeah,
answer.
easy
exactly.
right?
It's
Never an easy thing.
not.
Right.
There is no stock answer.
I think it's also important to think about what's the big picture strategic plan for your business.
Yes.
For example, I have a client right now that's got a concept and they are in proof of concept stage and they're thinking eventually they'd like to go to be able to sell their idea for manufacturing, but they haven't decided if they want to do that manufacturing yet or if they want to actually sell their technology to someone else to do the manufacturing. So having a good handle on what your business's overall strategic plan is has got to be a factor in making the decision too, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely.
And if it's bound by location, it's a retail outlet, and you have an ideal location, you want to lock it up, you want to buy it. If you
Well, I
can.
would argue that here's the other end of that, right? So the financial end is leasing's actually smarter than buying financially. Because leasing, you take it all off the top. You buy the asset, the property, whatever. You better buy it in a good neighborhood. Make sure your property has commercial value to appreciate. Otherwise, you get to own a lemon.
Yeah, no,
and,
right.
and, right. So and you can't write your lemon off past depreciation. Versus if you're leasing a lemon, you get to write that right off all the time. So positive impact to cash flow is actually higher off a lease because it's your net return at the end, which you get to keep, right? So one of the things we'll do is when you go through and you run the numbers, let's say even with leasing a car, it's the same concept. You pay lease for property, you pay, let's say, this like our space. It's like $2,400 a month, right? So that's the lease off the top. First, we owned it. Great, we owned it. Let's say it only cost us $1,800 a month to own it, this particular size, right? But you get to write off 18. No, you don't get to write off all that. You only get to write off the interest cost off of your business because you're actually appreciating an asset, and you could depreciate the value against the value and get some more tax write-off,
Right.
but not nearly as much actually.
Well, they were saying like the rule is maybe we have a client that he has his business that he operates, but he had created a separate company and bought the building
Yes.
as a separate company. His business pays a lease to him.
Yes.
He's the landowner or the property owner, so he gets the best of both worlds. Is
Would
that
Well,
is that right or no?
Yes, that's correct. But I find that we are shifting more and more towards a landscape where these kind of legal fictions, where you get the best of both worlds, are starting to be thrown out because judges are starting to realize, no, you're one business, you've got the same thing, you're not actually doing it. And so I think that's a little risky. And one of the other things, right, is that when they do come in and sue, they sue everybody. So you're not protected from the lawsuit. You might be protected from liability.
Do you mean as
You
the
still got to pay to
less
defend it. So
less
as
lease
so
or
in
property
his situation, right, where you've got Business Squad LLC, that is the business that's operating, and then you've got Business Squad Property Development that
Yep.
owns it, and somebody gets hurt, they sue both of them. They sue Business Squad and LLC. They sue sue Business Squad Property Management LLC, and they sue John Schmansky, Ben Van Gelder, and Alan Patnow, James
I thought you
Davis,
had
everybody.
protections as an LLC.
Well, they do, but they sue
They're
you,
still gonna
and they
name you
make
because
Rather than
during
name you.
discovery, they figure out that you did something personally.
Right, to
You're
drag
on
you
the
into
hook
the
for it.
suit, right,
Yeah.
to drag you
Dragged
into the
in.
suit. Yeah.
and a lot
I
of
mean, I
times,
signed the insurance agreement with.
No,
some-
it doesn't
No.
matter. No, it's
No.
your individual liability. If they find negligence,
right?
let's
So
say-
you argue, look, I'm protected by my LLC. Then you got to prove that
They-
you're doing everything right.
Right.
all the money is separate. Everything's in bank accounts.
Yeah.
You're actually paying that lease
No commingling of
for
funds.
each other. No
Yeah.
commingling of
Right.
funds. If you're a company, then you've got to have annual meetings and stockholder shares,
Yep.
all this stuff, which
Minutes.
most don't do. And if they find out that you're not doing it, then they're going to say, sorry,
No
no
more bail.
protections.
So our property casualty guy, what's the significant difference between, owning or leasing your building and your protections and your needs?
from a cost standpoint,
None.
nothing, no difference.
Hmm.
We're just adding on the other entity as the loss payable to, because they own it.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? And it depends on a situation where, let's take for example, if you occupied this and you had another entity that, Business Squad Property Management that actually owned the building, you could just, you put the two together, you leave them together. So you could be paying for the building insurance through your lease, which typically happens because they divide that. That's part of CAM, right?
So our landlord we're not affiliated with him. We lease from him. He doesn't really carry any other insurance on the property, but what we carry, right?
Oh, no, I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
No, he
There's
carries.
So there's a
question.
double. I'm just asking if there's an added expense.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If we just leased.
But that factor is probably not that large.
Okay.
It isn't something that would maybe tip the scale and saying, look, we'll save so much on our insurance that we should just buy the building.
And that's a good point.
All right.
I kind of feel like liability is not a reason why you should lease or buy,
Right.
because it's not. I mean, you get insurance that covers it,
You're gonna have it
liability
either way.
exists
and
without
it
either
always
of them.
exists. There's
Right.
no guarantees on getting rid of it, so
Right.
I don't think liability should be a big factor in your decision.
No, I'd agree with that. Yeah, to me, it's all about the cash flow at the end of the day. It's
And the strategic plan.
well, right. If I had a manufacturing place, I'm gonna make 7 billion widgets a year, or whatever. I want to buy a chunk of land, build a factory, because there's an advantage to that. Because I don't have to tell, okay, widget production, we got to stop. Like the guy that made the sriracha, for example, the city turned down because he didn't own his property, he leased it, and he had to pack up and move, and he did, but he had to uproot his whole operation. Well, okay, you don't want to do that, that's why you buy. But for service companies like ours or whatever, then it gets straight to cash flow, I think. And cash flow, you have an advantage over leasing versus buying. It's actually on a year to year, it's better. Now, I don't have a tangible asset because of it, right? Because I didn't build this building that the company could sell in 20 years. But if I was diligent with my savings and difference, I could have put that aside and actually still had a tangible financial asset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but can I keep,
Yeah.
so isn't there, after 20 years, if this location works out for you, after 20 years, you've paid out X dollars. and
Yeah,
you
let's say
have-
20 years, 100 will be like what?
Yeah, you're
like-
the math guy.
Yeah,
A lot.
$250,000. Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
and-
Well, if you're staying a long time,
Yeah.
isn't it better just to buy
Buy,
eventually? If you have a really a long range plan.
Well, for example, let's use our place, right? This is humongous strip mall. For those of you that don't know, big strip mall, blue
It's
tin
big.
roof, it's big. And we know because the owner's told us he's trying to sell it, he wants like $5 million for this joint.
Yep.
So, all right, so we're gonna go. It's $5 million, and we dump $5 million of capital in here, and now we have to spend all of our time getting the rest of it leased out. So let's not go that route, and let's just assume magically our piece
Yes.
was one
This
piece
is
to
like
worry
a
about.
condo. You're
Right,
buying
we have
this
our
chunk.
one piece to worry about. Now, our 2,400 square foot of space to worry about that we have to buy. You're still at the same assumption that this remains a viable place in 20 years' time.
And that's
Okay, so
absolutely-
tell
that's
everybody in
unknown.
Detroit who bought property,
Yeah.
tell everybody in Hazel Park or any other area where 20 years ago doesn't look like it did now.
No, it's
Right,
rocking.
right. This could be all the millennials say, screw it, I don't want these suburban life living. We're all moving to Detroit because it's all the action.
Yep.
And everybody packs bags. Nobody lives here. This becomes a ghost town, like all the little towns up north, all through Michigan.
Sure.
And now you
These
have
all be grow
dead end.
apartments. They'd all be grow
But by the
Yeah.
same token, right? So what's your ability to, let's say you buy
Great
it, right, with the 20-year plan, and it doesn't become a ghost town overnight. So how do
Okay.
you can? Is there a way? And this is what I'm asking, right? Can you mitigate?
You can sell
Can
it
you pay
anytime,
attention?
right?
Can you sort of
Well,
like?
yeah,
It's your argument, right?
your sale process is going to be longer, but I just don't understand. How do you invest in the stock market? Do you?
Carefully.
Okay, but you do, right? It's a common thing that
Not
people
the same
do.
comparison.
Well, there's a similarity. I'm not
I have
saying
immediate
it's the same.
liquidity with stock. I don't have that with a house
Depending,
or a building or
the
whatever.
immediate liquidity, depending on what the market's doing. If you buy high and sell low, nobody knows what the future's going to hold. And I would argue that a real estate investment, if you are positioned to take it on,
Well, historically too.
you can gather as many facts and
No,
trends.
that's, hold on. I'm about to bust the
Bubble.
historical bubble. Here
Bubble.
it goes.
Hey, I'm just saying, nobody can
Look
tell
at
the
this, look
future.
at
There's
it.
a risk in any investment.
Yeah.
There is a risk. I agree with
That's
that.
it.
But
And what do you do with that property over the 20 years?
well,
could
again,
make
the
it
same
something.
argument. I get that. And at the end of the day, it comes down to what risk you're willing to accept as a business. Absolutely. But that's about anything.
Sure.
But in leases versus buy, specifically in that context,
Yeah.
you accept a greater risk to buy it. Potentially, yes, it could appreciate. Just potentially, you could be left with a future,
A pile of rubble. Nothing.
right? Future dump.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question you as the owner you have to ask yourself is, have I made it past the 5-year mark in my business?
Yes.
Because that's statistical fail points for most
Yes.
businesses. Have I made it past the 7-year mark? And at that point you made it past 7, you have to intentionally wreck your business. I mean, you do stuff that's really stupid or whatever, because 90+% of businesses survive after 7 years. So 7 years is a magical number. If you're at 7 years of business, then maybe you consider. I buy this property now. I'm going to stay here, and I think this community is going to grow, and I'm going to be good, and I'm investing. I'm buying a property. But for most businesses, it doesn't
I'm gonna say
fit there. Yeah, go.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really paying attention to your business too, and this just occurred to me while you were talking, you want to look at the future of your own business and like out in the world.
Sure.
Trending, we were kind of talking about this before we started, but trending away from brick and mortar, and people are more mobile, and in that scenario, I would say you might want to really gauge your position on real estate as an investment separately from your business, right?
Well,
Fair.
that raises a good question, right? So what about when you've got the person who is trying, so we've talked a lot about the buy or lease decision.
sure,
It's a
yeah.
difficult one.
Yeah, right.
What about the people that are deciding, like, do I buy an office or do I just work out of my house?
Right.
Because when I was in practice, I spent the first 6 months working out of my office. And then I came in with you guys. And when I was making that decision, I wasn't thinking about all these different other things.
Yes.
It's a totally different set of factors, right? Because financially, yeah, sure, it's 100% better if I work out of my house, right? Because I'm not spending any money. But then I'm not making connections, I'm not as productive, there's all these other things.
Sure.
So what about when that's the question?
We call that opportunity cost, by the way.
Sure. So how does that question a different one than the one to lease or own?
Well, it's there's a lot of businesses like
Right.
you're in business and you're an intellectual business and you can.
A service.
Okay,
I wouldn't
but-
call attorneys
Let's
an
not call it
intellectual
intellectual.
business.
I love you, Ben.
Listen, I wouldn't have gone to
kidding.
law school if I wasn't.
Well, I mean, there's so many
Right.
things today are mobile because of the internet and people the
That's right.
ability to work at home and be as productive at home and
Yeah.
and how much is face to face and how important is it to have a show place where for James and I to have clients come to our office here definitely I believe gives us a leg up than driving around in our car meeting people at their kitchen table.
Yeah.
I just think it's just
Absolutely.
a different level that
There's
Panera.
Starbucks, yeah, right, Panera.
It's professional.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Absolutely right.
But by the same
It's a
token,
profession. He has a.
yeah, it's a profession. But I actually find that a lot of clients appreciate when I meet them at their kitchen table because no other lawyer is going to do that. And so the fact that I do that, so it's
But be
different for
careful
every
with
industry.
what you wish for, because what'll happen is you'll develop a clientele based on that kind of service, and what'll happen is you'll grow to a point where you can't maintain that type of service.
Right, it's a balance.
True story.
It's a balance.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, so there's two thoughts I'm having. First of all, if you are building your business the right way, then it's a duplicatable model. So you duplicate the model, you train other people that come in under, you basically franchise yourself. You franchise the way that you do business. So if you are the lawyer who goes to people's kitchen tables, if you take on an associate, then you train them to do it exactly the same way that you're doing it. I have a company, a client that is a general contractor, and he's thinking about this, and I mean, this is a $500,000 a year business. This is not a small, insignificant business. And he's growing, and he's taking on more people, and he just recently, just this year, decided to rent space finally. Because he goes to people's homes. That's what he does. So I think, again, you have to take into consideration other questions about what type of a business are you in.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right. I think if
For
your business
you guys,
matters,
clients are showing up, going to Panera makes you seem unprofessional. For him, people expect him to show up
Sure.
Well,
in their
Well,
kitchen
yeah.
to look at the space. So
Yeah.
A lot of, where James and I are now catering to more the business owner, it's a little different. But
It's a
originally,
different-
I got into business catering to the senior population, and the previous business models have been all around, at the kitchen table and traveling to
Sure.
them, and that's there's a lot of time and effort put into that for, is a real return there. Where, now it's moving towards even internet. So we have agents in that space now. They're sitting at home, in a nice shirt and pajama bottoms, in front of a TV screen, and they're selling across the nation
Yeah.
over the phone in a video conference.
Yep. Yeah.
Which raises a whole slew of issues that we talked about last week, security, and I have a feeling Max would have something to say. That's Max Blackburn,
That's
I
right.
guess last week, about the internet connections at Panera and McDonald's. But
yeah.
That's a whole
yeah,
nother
he's-
can of worms.
Yeah.
That was last week's can of worms.
Intentionally crabby.
But well,
I'm sure.
I think that
Interesting.
with that being said, if you do choose to buy, I think we've even covered when is the best time, really. I guess when it's right for you, right?
It's empty.
I mean, ultimately,
Yeah,
that's
you know.
it's kind of what we had to say about the matter,
Yeah,
right? The best time to buy when it's right. But I would even argue at the end of the day, with the change of industries for all of them being such a disruptive state, that you're going to see less and less and less and less and less of this
Yes.
in general. It's just going to be what it is. The big corporate buildings, the big stuff like that, just going to be less. And if you
But-
follow industry trends for businesses, even they're all trending smaller. So
Because I'm devil's advocating here.
I
apparently.
got you. It's all good.
There is also a resurgence of shopping local. I mean, look at our downtown and our surrounding communities. The downtown, that's people's feet on the street opening doors.
Sure.
Yeah, but
That's-
unique
yeah.
shops,
That's a
not
retail
your
space,
right.
though. That's-
Yes.
Sure.
People are longing
Sure.
for the more European downtown,
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
have a city center,
An opportunity to do some
In
of
small
this face to
towns.
face
Right.
and less of this.
because it's still about people.
Yeah.
It's always
At the end
been.
of
Well,
the day.
that's interesting that
People
you say that
are
because I hear
people.
James talk all the time about how Amazon's exploding in the drones, and it's almost
Yeah.
like they either want to just make it as convenient as possible or local with people.
Yes.
And so that's why
That middle is
Walmart's
gone.
closing however many stores. We talked about that.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
are the ones that
Well,
are
Amazon's after Walmart.
Well,
But
and I think where you're going to see, you bring up the whole European style cities or whatever. The coming industry change with the 3D printing and all that, you're going to see a resurgence actually of the craftsman space, where people can
Well, I
actually
would
be.
hope so.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
they can.
You'll see the at-home craftsmen working, creating their own stuff out of a local retail front. 3 people with a 3D printer, and they're doing their fine touches to whatever they're making, and they're selling their whatever.
It's already, have
you
you
know.
seen Etsy?
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, right.
Pinterest and Etsy.
But
Yeah.
but that's
What's
right.
that?
That's exactly
Virtual
right.
version.
That's correct.
Pinterest and Etsy,
really,
they kind of go
Well,
together.
Pinterest
I
is
think.
the scrapbook, and
no, I
Etsy
know.
is the
Well, my
retail
daughter has
outlet.
a business on Etsy, and it's amazing. She's 21 years old,
Yeah.
and she's knocking down 60 grand a year,
What does she sell?
making terrariums.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
selling them across the world.
Yeah.
Terrarium kits and little people and
So,
cool
Circle
stuff.
back. Does that
Yeah.
chick need some retail space? Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't.
If
She
her
needs
production
she
levels
needs
up,
production
she's
space, so she needs
Right.
a bigger garage is what
Yeah.
she needs now.
Yeah.
Bigger garage.
Well, that's something you got to provide for her, right?
Yeah.
Just get a bigger
Her
house.
mother. But yeah. But I was just gonna mention though, Amazon, I was talking to somebody, their brick and mortar stores are not for retail sales. It's so people can come in and touch and feel,
Yeah.
the stuff that they have online available.
Okay.
They still order online, they just get to come and touch and feel it.
Yeah.
Right. It's so they can, because now what they'll do is, well, you'd like to be featured in our store. We'll charge you.
Ah,
It's like the grocery
Right.
stores did, right? So the grocery store, you want to be
Yeah.
on our top shelf
Shelf
or the
space.
bottom shelf? Well, I don't want to be on the bottom shelf. I want people to see my stuff. Well, we'll feature you in our stores for a fee of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because then people go, well, I can touch this. I've never used Like a Scrub Daddy is a great
Sure.
example. We saw Scrub Daddy on Shark Tank. We buy them, right? Well, you can order them online on Amazon for 30% less than Bed Bath Beyond has them. But you can't touch them, right? You don't know what they do. So my wife, Renee, she's all curious. So she goes to Bed Bath Beyond, buys a couple. Now we got a bucket of Scrub Daddies laying around. But had she been able to do that through just Amazon, you just can't, right?
Right.
So that's where the store, for example, is going to serve well, I think.
Does
the
it
products
really
from that-
matter if it's? I mean, if they've got brick and mortar space, people are coming in. It doesn't matter if the actual transaction takes place online.
Well,
No.
you'll just,
Still
I would
builds
argue
the
they'll probably just have a
community,
kiosk right there. You'll just sign in your Amazon
Right.
account, buy it right there. There
So
won't
it's
be
just
people.
like a brick and mortar store.
Well, no, because
Well, they
people
don't keep supply.
Right.
They only
Okay.
have a
Which
floor
is
model
one or
or
two
example.
things to
Yeah,
touch
the
and
same
feel.
one I touched is
Yeah.
the one you're gonna touch.
So it's
Yeah.
less space.
You're not,
It
that's
takes up
correct.
less
No
Oh
inventory.
yeah,
space.
oh yeah.
No inventory.
They don't have to keep
Right.
inventory, exactly.
Yeah, less space, but more people doing their own business, so more need for that same space.
It's interesting.
I
It's
don't
really
know.
interesting.
I think it's a very interesting mix what the consumer wants and what people that are doing business with any type of business wants. They want,
Right.
I find that they want a mix of the in-person, face-to-face, sort of the human touch experience, but they also appreciate the virtual world where they can interact at the convenience that goes along with virtual space. So
Until virtual reality comes and changes everything.
right, yeah. I
You
think
know what?
it's a mix.
I
Well,
apologize.
of course.
You know,
Yours?
I just thinking. I just mentioned my daughter's business and I didn't even plug it. It's
I was-
called the Fairy's Nest on Etsy.
There you go. Good job.
The Fairy's
Good
Nest.
job.
The Fairy's Nest. Check it out. Get a terrarium.
John
Family
saved his
and friends.
Father's Day gift.
Yeah.
That's right.
Whoa! I just thought, boy, I was gonna get in trouble here.
Right on.
Are they small terrariums?
No, different sizes. You know, even the necklace size, like little ones.
Wow.
Oh,
She
wow.
found
She's
out
got
that
she's got a naughty department, so that's one of the biggest sellers. It's pretty wild, you know. But
Is
it's
that a
cool.
limited liability company, John?
That is actually it is. So, and it's her and her mother did it together. So,
Nice.
Of all, and it's
It's
such
great
a
creative outlet.
yeah. As I say, such
It
an
is.
well, she
obscure
found
odd
something
thing.
that she likes to do, you know,
There you
and
go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Back to the
Find
passion.
what
Yep.
you love.
so now she's hiring her first employee.
That's awesome.
And she's trying because she needs somebody to keep her company, you know. So that's part of the
Yeah.
requirement, yeah. So
But that's a
That's
great
okay.
point. That's one of the biggest things when I moved from my house to my office is people keeping me company, right?
Yep.
And not just my dogs, right? I mean, it makes a big difference in how you work.
well, you're not a chatty Cathy. You can go to work in there, but you hear us breathing. I guess.
Well, I'm not all the time, but I'm certainly more so than I was.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know?
I agree. I'm like, I agree.
Sure.
Somebody
The
will
social
notice
I'm
it.
like, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've wrapped that pretty good. So I'm going to go on to our next segments, our shout outs. And in this area, we like to kind of give some credit to businesses that have done something well and kind of bring a spotlight to them. And one of them was Everything Coming Up Mustard. Now, I don't know if you guys got to read that. Did you cover it? So what'd you think, Ben?
Well, I think it's just interesting that these kind of small specialty type places are, it's like exactly what we were talking about, right? People are not just buying Heinz, right? They're either buying Heinz or they're buying the locally made
Yeah.
mustard. It's interesting.
Well, isn't it about real food, though?
Yeah.
Isn't
Instead
mustard
of being so
mustard?
processed. No, mustard is very processed. It's all
Yeah.
highly processed.
Yeah.
I have to say, I have like probably 20 different types of mustard in my fridge.
Mustard's
We're some serious mustard eaters.
Stability in general.
Yeah, and my most recent one is made actually out of Michigan from Founders, and they took Dirty Bastards beer that they make, and they infused it and made a stone ground mustard. Fantastic on corned beef. I recommend it. Corned beef, Dirty Bastard mustard,
Corned beef and
rye.
cabbage today,
wing.
right?
Aye, that's a coincidence you bring up. It's a
There
good
you
way
go.
of thinking there, Benjamin.
Thank you
Aye,
for bringing
just-
it up there.
That's great. Good looking out for the Irish. But but at any rate, yeah, I think you're going to see more and more of that going forward. The whole, because it's easy to be customizable and the distribution and all that stuff's simpler now than it used to be. It used to be so hard to get scale. Matter of fact, coming up in April, future plug, we're going to have a foodpreneur on here. That's my word, thank you.
Yeah.
Foodpreneur, and she
You
actually.
should patent that or something.
I should have. That's my
Yeah.
sniglet. Oh, take it back. 80s word for you. But at any rate,
Could be a
and
show.
she actually does granola and she's got a great story where she started out trying to peddle it just locally, and then decided to go wholesale. And she's going to tell a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about all the breaking into the food product space and what that's like. So if you guys are future foodpreneurs,
Right.
tune in,
Food-
and
what is it?
we'll keep the
Food-
date posted.
Foodpreneur.
Foodpreneur, yeah.
Entrepreneurs.
Like entrepreneur, just
Yeah, I know.
foodpreneur, yeah.
Yeah, it's,
I
Foodpreneur.
don't think it's a real.
it could be a show.
It could be a show, that's right. Here today,
Uh,
gone tomorrow.
although I will say, you did say it's becoming a lot easier than it used to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
I still don't think it's easy enough that you can just like do everything yourself again.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
there,
that.
and I'm not
I'm
just
not
plugging
saying
the
that.
business squad. I mean, I am.
Ben is the
I'll be
master of
completely
plugging.
honest.
Well, you know, but
But-
had you not said that, you would have really been a good plug. But now
Well,
you announced it. Get ready,
There
plug
actually
time.
should be
I guess
only 15
I have
minutes
enough
if
faith
you
in
wanna
our
do it
audience; they
right.
would have seen through it anyways. So I know it's good enough.
That's right.
But you know, they're still gonna Kroger's still gonna say, or Amazon or whatever, they're still gonna send you this 50-page legal document that you gotta look at carefully, or you're gonna be in a
Sure,
mess,
no,
right?
I agree with that.
And you still gotta look at the numbers and all these decisions about property and manufacturing. They still come into play.
But it has nothing to do with the passion of what you do. Like so,
Exactly.
so do what you do. Make your great
Right.
mustard, or sell your awesome houses, or your awesome buildings, or coach people with the championship way. But but whatever the case, at the end of the day, all the minutia that's in the back lines, that's what you need to
Yeah,
outsource.
and don't wait. You're starting out
Sure.
a business, and you're a small and up and coming business. It's not too early to start talking to
No.
people,
Sure.
to us, the business squad, and
Absolutely.
make sure you protect yourself right out.
No,
the
absolutely
gate,
right.
so.
I agree with that.
Surround
100%.
yourself with those people that
Yeah.
can help you.
It's
the
never
most.
too
Yeah, help you
early.
grow, right?
It's never too early, but once you sign the bottom line, it's a little too late for me to help you. There's only so much I can do.
It's true enough, no doubt. Did you guys see the one airline does good?
Yeah,
It's
Yes.
nice.
It's really interesting.
Well, how so?
It was nice that they were so customer service, at its best.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, and that's one of their people that was on the phone on a bad connection or something, and they're like they gave a shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
And handled it.
they tracked it down and and they went so far as to pay for the ticket. Well, that's even if they just
wow.
took care of getting them on the flight would be enough. But that's great.
Well,
Yeah.
doesn't it get back to the why?
Now,
we talked about
hotels
before?
will tell you that it's not about making sure that the problem never happens. It's how you handle the problem when it does happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. Everybody makes mistakes. It's all in how you respond.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I actually had a similar situation with Delta Airlines a few years ago. My son was hauled into emergency surgery while I was on a flight from Detroit to Boston,
Oh, boy.
Oh, Christmas.
which I found out as soon as I landed in Boston. And I was very panicked about what was happening back in Detroit. And I got off, and my panic was evident to the people at the counter. They, just like that, they said, there's a flight going back to Detroit in 45 minutes. Have a seat. We're going to get you on it.
It's awesome.
They didn't.
Wow.
They didn't charge me anything.
What airline?
Delta Airlines. That
Really?
was yeah,
I've had that.
5 years ago now. 5 years
So
ago.
what
4
we
years.
failed to do, I think, was outline what the airline did. If you want to,
Well,
give a little summary, it'd be
Yeah.
great.
Good. Give
Well,
us
what
a-
air was it? I can't remember the air.
For sure. To give these guys their credit.
But
I can
a customer had, what did they have? They had a.
He had an existing ticket. Right?
Yeah, he had it, and he flew out for something. But his father had a
Some
heart
conference.
attack,
Mhm.
and then
Right.
just as he was trying to address the heart attack issue with his father, his
His
wife
wife went into
called and went into labor early,
Right.
3 weeks early, and he's like in a panic, and he was on the phone
Right.
trying to make arrangements with the airline, which I wish I could remember the airline's
Yeah.
name. It was a small regional carrier, and they couldn't make a good connection.
It was
But
WestJet,
but the
wasn't it?
yes, I think so.
Sounds
And the airline on the end got enough information in the sketchy conversation that they were able to track down his name, because they didn't
Yeah.
have his whole name, and arrange for the flight. And then when he got there, it was all taken care of. He
Yeah.
just jumped on the plane, and they paid for it actually. So
Yeah, they didn't charge him any sort of transferring fees,
Yeah.
which is exactly what Delta did for me too. They didn't.
yeah,
They didn't charge me for any changes. They made sure
so
I
that makes you feel
had
good,
a
doesn't
seat.
it?
it?
Yeah,
does.
it's
Not only
that's
that,
customer
how often do you
service.
fly? I mean, do you
Oh,
get a Delta airline?
Every time I fly,
Yeah.
Delta is always the first
Done.
plane that I go for, the
Yeah.
first airline, and that is, I mean, you said it first. It is exceptional customer service. It is an example of exceptional customer service.
Yep.
Any business needs to be thinking about how they differentiate themselves in terms of their product space. But I think even more importantly is how you differentiate yourself in terms of your customer service.
Yeah.
Because
So-
if you take care of your
That's what it's
people, they're
about.
always going to come back.
So
All
how
in
big
the
of a
service.
company is that, that we're talking about? But we were talking earlier, it's all about relationships,
For sure.
and people aren't sold anymore. People buy, and they buy when they're comfortable from people that they know, like, and trust, and that's our job, is to be those people. So
Well, and I also think too, like what Delta did is exceptional, but I think it's starting to become more the norm. And I don't mean to not give these airlines credit, but I think you hear a lot of these stories where airlines are doing good things, and it's kind of becoming the norm that airlines will help take care of people. And I think you need to be aware of a business owner that this people have higher expectations for customer service. There's things like Yelp and all this that gets people information out there. And so if everybody else in your neighborhood is giving, let's just take an example, right? Nordstrom's gives free refunds, no questions asked, right? So if all the other clothes stores in the area are doing that and you're the one that's not, that's going to really hurt you. So you kind of need to be aware of what's
or
going
if
on.
you're like the budget airline, like, and I won't mention any names
The
because
jet that has value.
yeah, well, the one that if you come in and your suitcase is just a half an inch too big,
Right.
it's $50 or something.
Yeah, versus the ones that'll always kind of let it slide. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Consumers are,
Well, some
like you
back
said,
office
they're buying.
guy said, "Hey, do you know how much money we could make
Yeah.
if we just charged them that extra inch?"
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Millions.
5
So
pounds,
it goes back to
right?
you get what you pay for, isn't it?
Well, that and it's like, for example, if you go Virgin Air, right? Those guys, they move the planet for you, but then you pay twice,
Right.
2.5 times for your ticket. But you ride chariot style, and the food's ridiculous, and the
Yeah.
whole experience is ridiculous, and you're just like, wow. So yeah, it comes back down. You get what you pay for, I think,
You
and
just said it. People are paying for an experience.
but that's it.
Right.
I agree with that. And I personally, for me, I don't fly that often, so I don't want it to be a miserable one.
Right.
And myself, I'm not like a road warrior and airborne all the time. You can get my happy ass in a plane. It
Yeah.
better be comfortable.
I want my,
I want-
my first class to be on an angle.
That's right.
Right.
Well, that's right. I want to be able to sprawl out, sit back, and say, "Yes, thank you. I'll take another."
And where are
And
the showers, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Danny says we lost sound.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I don't know how to test that, but
Well, that would be a bummer.
Is
One
the microphone
moment,
thump
on?
please.
and then no
John?
sound.
What?
A thump and then no sound, she said.
What's going on with the microphone?
Is the microphone?
It's
working?
it's indicating correctly.
Oh,
Okay.
don't blink.
Sure.
Hi, folks. Those of you that are
Oh,
probably catch up with this and the technical difficulties that we're
This is for all you
encountering.
lip readers out there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Sugar. Yeah.
Watch what I say to you.
Oh.
We are.
Oh,
sorry.
wait. One of our segments was how to say you're sorry. SORRY.
There you go. There you go.
Right? Yeah, I
Oh,
don't.
boy.
The only thing. Yeah.
Is it
No.
there or not? You
She
can
says
say.
no. She
Okay.
says
So
no,
no
no
sound?
sound. Mm-mm.
Well, maybe I'll go double check.
I
It
don't
could
know
be
how
that
that-
it's still. It could be that it's recording it and just not streaming it. Or
Yeah, I
is that
don't.
not happening?
I just
I
wanted to
don't-
tell you.
Well, we can't fix it right now.
No, we
you
can't.
know.
So
But
we'll
if
keep
it's
that.
not
So
even
it'll
recording the
keep.
sound,
It'll
there's
still
no
record here. It
Okay,
may not
that's
be
what I'm
pushed.
saying. Sure.
It may not be pushing it out to her, but it still record. So those of you that saw this kerfuffle, that's the beauty of seeing it live. You may not have heard everything we said here, but you see us all going for no reason.
So why? Here's what when I hear that, I think
That's
Okay.
recorded.
And now we've even got other background noise on the
Wow.
recorded episode. This is the beauty of live.
Yeah, but see,
this is live TV.
this
That's what it's
is
about.
we're imperfect, right?
That's right. It's
We are.
live TV. It's what it's about.
And it's how we handle this.
It's true because we
Hey,
want to keep
you
on
get what
rolling.
you get what you pay for, right?
That's right.
If you guys want the sound improved, just start wiring
Hey,
checks over here.
that's
We will take care of that. For
we
you.
will buy the best equipment you pay for. I promise. There's no doubt.
Funny.
But that being said, we're going to go on to the next segment, which is the hisses. And in that area, we cover, companies that are like dropping the ball. Someone that blew it this week, or maybe a few companies, or in this case, 7 of the worst business decisions ever made by a company.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I thought that was interesting.
it was. What was the most interesting one that you thought?
You know, I thought the Beatles thing was just,
Yeah.
it's what sticks in my head. But there was quite a few. Kodak was,
Oh yeah.
horrible, horrible decision.
Yeah.
But the Beatles guy, he had to be like kicking him. I was just thinking, what is that guy thinking when he's like old and gray and about to die? And the Beatles have, sold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
they were
whatever.
talking about. They
Right.
showed the whatever.
And he
the
told
beverage
Epstein, you
company
guys,
that-
there's nothing special here.
Yeah, they said, "Oh, you Beatles, you're nothing good. You're never gonna take off," and they got rid of him. And then
Well, he was
Kodak
saying
too,
that
right?
that 4-piece bands are a thing of the past.
Oh yeah.
The guy.
Yeah.
And
I
for
guess
these
he was-
guys, that
I
redefine
guess
the
he was
model.
like 30 years early, right? I mean, now I think you would say 4-piece bands are a little bit more out, but
I have to talk on this one because I thought it was so fucking annoying. Sorry, to Monday morning quarterback. You could do that with anything.
yeah.
Yes.
And I also saw it from the point of view of I'm the Beatles, right? I'm a small business owner. Somebody told me you can't do that. You're going to be nobody. And I was
Yeah.
like, screw you. I'm doing
Yep.
it anyway.
It's
Yeah.
on.
That's
Yeah,
right.
It's
There you go.
on.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. Well, and I think we
Yeah.
talked earlier, right? You said, the baggage decision, some penny pusher in the back
Right.
said that it was this without seeing the big picture. I think
Sure.
that happens all the time. with
Absolutely.
this.
Sure.
Absolutely
Somebody
does.
who just
Absolutely.
kind of sees only part of it, they don't see the big picture.
iPhone. Who even what this? What?
Right.
What is this?
Yep.
Because contrary to all you Apple zealots out there, Steve Jobs didn't invent all the very segments of the iPhone. He actually had a vision enough to stitch together existing designs into one unified piece and made it look pretty. So just for the background
Yeah,
check
but they
for
were
you.
very unique and
But-
very,
what
it
was-
was cutting edge stuff that, and under
Ab-
Steve Jobs and Wozniak, they put out unique and great products. I just read an article about
I was gonna say,
the
at
Apple
first,
Watch that's, is Wozniak said he doesn't think it's going to go very far, and it's kind of the demise of Apple is if they're going to push
It's
something
the
like this.
interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not really Apple if you look at the interface. I mean, the way
Well,
you
they-
have
I
to-
mean-
See, be careful what you say, because in 50 years, if we've all got our Apple Watches that we're looking at,
Oh, we'll
Yeah.
have
who
that technology.
knows, right?
It'll be bio.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
just saying, I don't
It
think
won't
Apple.
be something you strap
Apple's
on. It'll be
gonna-
something that's in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that with that stuff, the whole Apple thing, when Jobs died, that was the heart of the company. It's just what it is. So all they're working on now is all of his old stuff that he still had in his final days that he wrote, like the Apple TV, and you can see that without his drive to push, that's kind of squandered. And the Apple Watch was one of the things, and that's being squandered. It's just because you don't. That's what happens when you build a very top-heavy organization like he did, where like,
That's right.
I have the vision, and you minions, you have my vision, or you shall all be fired. Whatever you say, boss. And then that was it. And then one day he falls over, and there's no lieutenants that can become
The
captains. but
creative
captains
juices were all
It's
at
all
the
well
top.
because he
Yeah.
insisted that it's all that, right?
His way.
Yeah. Well, and you got to do that some in the beginning because people are scared to start or whatever.
Yeah.
But as you go on, you hand off pieces. Okay.
Well, so what's the opposite of that? Is Google then? So Google
Google
is creative everywhere.
Open source everywhere.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And they just want to put an advertising budget to whatever that you make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to make something great? Can we stick an ad in it somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
make it. You? Yeah, awesome. Can we get pay per clicks on those? Hey, you could do it too. And that's kind of Google's attitude about all that.
Well, it's a
But-
great point. If you're a small business owner too, it's the same thing. If your business is your face, if your business is your person,
Yep.
You're
and
absolutely
you want
right.
something to outlive you, you've
Absolutely
got to
right.
start delegating. You've got to start,
This
Yeah,
is
and I think
the
what Rachel said is, or I'm sorry, you said
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Ellen.
Ellen, he's called everybody
Ellen
Elizabeth.
I don't know
Elizabeth.
what I have Liz on the brain today.
It's all right. No worries.
it's it speaks to the absolute necessity of having an exit strategy.
Yes.
You have to be thinking about an exit strategy when you
How do you
build your
perpetuate?
company. Yeah,
That's
you have to think
perfect.
about how do you duplicate, how do you train people to take it over, or put yourself out of business. Whatever your choice is, you're making a choice.
It can
You're
die
not
with
just
you
letting
or
it
it can
happen.
live on.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Although I would mention, you don't necessarily have to be thinking about it because Ellen could help you think about it.
That's right.
Whoa. Back to that tie back. You're
Anybody
no longer
can
the
think
legal
about
evil.
it.
Right.
What you need help with is figuring out how to actually execute it.
Right. Right.
It's true. So you need a plan.
Yeah, don't go it alone when you have a team
Sure.
right
That's
here
right.
for you.
Squad, if you will.
A squad
A
at your
squad.
disposal.
Per chance.
Just a simple keystroke away, and we too can work for you.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the sound is there if she's watching a minute behind, and all the sound is there.
Oh, good.
Great.
See, so the kerfuffle,
Thanks, honey.
the kerfuffle was all caught live. See, beauty of
Complimentary.
live
yeah.
TV.
I hope they caught the part about sending us checks.
I hope they did too. Because we could use some improved equipment, because I hate this Lenovo box. Anyway, we're walking. And so the next segment that we cover is like from the field, and that's questions that customers that we have in our various disciplines have brought to us over the week, and who you might have some solutions that might answer more just your customer, but maybe general people, relative as well, that are listening. So you said, Ben, and you said you had an event.
Yeah, I had a great question. Somebody called me and said, "Am I screwed?"
Yeah.
And the answer was maybe, of course, because I'm an attorney and it's all.
Yes.
But they actually, interestingly enough, they have a commercial lease that they're involved in, and there was an issue about utilities, and it wasn't addressed, and they were kind of under the impression that because the lease said something, that's how it was, and that's not necessarily how it is, because there's all kinds of ways to get around it. You can say, like, there's a doctrine called that's not the correct term, the doctrine. But there's an idea, right? Whereas if you're under a contract and you do something the same way for 5 years, that becomes what you do, right? That becomes the contract. And then you can't come back 5 years later and say, no, you know what? The contract says this, we're going to do this now. So that's, there's a lot of ways
It's like
to
a
work
common law
around it.
marriage.
It's a common law doctrine. It's the
Nice,
exact
okay.
same concept as a common law marriage. So there's a lot of different stuff. You're never screwed on a lease or any contract that you sign up front. There's always ways to sort of work around it.
Right, so the longer you let the bad thing go on,
Right. And
you're,
there's always
approving of it, basically.
Sure. And even if you are stuck in that lease, you can just say, all right, well, we're leaving. See you later. And then if you've got enough market power, then they lose something too.
Yep.
It's hard to collect on a lease. You got to go through court, pay an attorney, all this stuff. A lot of times they'll just let you go. So you're never screwed. There's always hope.
With the right counsel.
With the right
With
counsel.
counsel.
Sure.
With the right counsel. Now, John, did you say you had something this week too?
I did. With the tax season, we have several business owners shocked, and their question is, why am I paying so much tax, and is there ways that I could avoid this? And it occurred to me to talk about what we here at Kokopelli deal with, which is retirement plans or qualified retirement plans, and I suggest you see us because we can help you defer taxes and secure the retirement that you really desire. So you can look at it today. Exactly where you're going to be. In 15 years when you decide to retire, and that's all part of what you mentioned, Down, was your exit strategy. So.
Well, and I'll piggyback to that. So one of the cases that we're working with, the guy makes north of $500,000 a year with his business, paying north of $200,000 in taxes. Welcome to the United States. And we can go in and immediately remove $25,000 to $30,000 of his tax bill, and now he's keeping the asset. The government doesn't get it. He's now saving for his long-term exit strategy because you can't do whatever you're doing forever. And or may not want to do what you're doing forever, right? Exactly. And that's one of the things. It costs him nothing for us to do to sit down and talk to figure out his game plan.
A comprehensive free analysis.
That's right.
What it is.
And it saves him now going forward for the next however many years he earns that $26,000 a year based on the current tax system today. So he's hard dollars in his pocket. So there's definitely an advantage.
Available to a sole proprietor, right
all the way up to whatever.
See, 25 employees. Beyond that,
30.
it might be beyond us, but
So if Bill Gates gives you a call, you're going to turn him down?
we are
Not at
because
all.
you know what.
Oh, now we have
No.
Boy, we got
No.
contention.
All
Now,
right,
Bill, I'm
well,
taking
we'll talk
the
about
ball.
it later, but you know what? We're going to stay in the space that we can best serve, and we can best serve the small business owner. So can't be every.
But Bill, if you're
everything that
listening, I'll take your call.
All day long.
yeah, Bill can call and to donate for our equipment.
Yeah, right.
here.
There we go.
Right.
We'll stop talking about Apple and only talk Microsoft.
That's right. This will be a Microsoft
Hey, it's coming. The
house.
check's
That's
coming in the
right.
mail.
Microsoft house. I saw it on the internet. All you gotta do is respond, and Bill sends you a check.
I saw that too.
Oh,
Yeah, you
interesting.
too. So you got the same one? Yeah,
Interesting.
Microsoft Word. I got it. It was pretty
Interesting.
cool.
Good to know.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
from India? Or no, or
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Right?
There's a
Wait, those aren't
Nigerian
real
prince
either?
that needs to launder some money.
No,
I have
Yeah,
one
go ahead.
thing.
Yeah. Totally.
I would ask every business owner that potentially has multiple businesses, names, entities that are sitting out there. Most of you don't communicate that to your insurance agent because most insurance agents don't ask for it. And you have to be careful because you have policies, and if that company is not named in that policy somewhere,
yeah.
you have no coverage.
Oh yeah.
It's
So
a
if you
big
have a-
problem.
Corp with an LLC or a
Exactly.
subsidiary.
DBAs, you can
Yeah.
have
Really?
businesses that you've had names out there where you've done business under that name, and it isn't actually exactly like your corporate name, but that name has to be in there. It
Can
has to
all
show.
of those names exist on the same policy?
Absolutely,
Okay.
because unless one is a pipe bomb manufacturer and the other is an ice cream store,
Gotcha.
Right.
you know, that's an issue.
Two
But
policies.
But like
You
an
know,
individual umbrella policy, isn't that a protection in case something like that is overlooked? Or?
But
For an individual.
not
this
necessarily.
is
Well,
where
it's like
I
I'm
mean, I always
saying-
had an umbrella policy, you know, for me, just in case I
Right.
missed anything. you know.
Understand an umbrella policy is generally what they call a following form policy, which means it follows the same form that it goes over. So if your primary policy doesn't cover it,
Okay.
then your umbrella probably won't react to it
Okay.
either, except for a couple of places.
So you're saying there's holes in my umbrella?
There's holes everywhere.
Got
Be
it.
careful.
It's like the robe
Well,
they
and you
give you
brought
at the
up-
hospital. There's always something hanging out, and it's usually your ass.
And once the attorney gets involved, that's exactly what they look for. Is they look for
Exactly.
whose ass is hanging out of the
That's
wagon.
right.
And that's the one they
And there's
elect
always
on.
I love
somebody's
it.
ass
That's
hanging out,
funny,
so you
yeah.
have to be careful.
Yeah.
And that's why in insurance you need to have a relationship with somebody that understands truly what you do, so you can make sure that all
Right.
those holes are filled.
Right.
Right.
And that's what a real agent does is, you
Well,
know, they
it's-
don't, that's what a real agent should be doing,
That's right.
is understand the
And,
business.
and I was gonna say, you mentioned the whole entity thing, and then I was thinking about the pour over issues that happen. We see with a lot of multi-business owners in the fact of crossover liability. Because now what'll happen is you're in the name of one policy. So let's say you have a really industrious attorney who says, well, you're willing to name multiple risk events upon this one policy. That means you have a mutual insured interest for all these other companies. Guess what? You've now destroyed your legal wall that you've done
Right.
to protect them all. You've exposed all businesses to the risk of business A. So your pipe bomb manufacturer just destroyed my Dairy Queen franchise because I own both.
Right.
And now my Dairy Queen one got toasted too. And that happens to properties as much as businesses.
Oh, yeah.
So people deal with properties all the time as well. So one of the things, is
Yeah,
a
'cause
separate
when you do
entity of
a
ownership.
personal injury suit, that's way more money than the business makes. So they want the property. They want to lien on the property because then either they're going to force a sale on the property or you're just going to keep making them payments because they own your property.
Right.
So it's
Do
sticky.
you do a lot of people going in buying real estate to rent, like homes?
Yeah.
Do you find that they're filing them in LLCs? now?
Investor buyers, yeah. I mean, especially
Do
for
you have a
those
client
just
that does
starting out.
multiples?
One, yeah.
They should
Are
be
in
They
there
are
different
all
separate LLCs?
No, they're all in the same company, and it's a company.
Somebody
that,
slips and falls at one of those places.
They
Somebody
take 'em
gets
all.
drunk
See what
at the
you're
party.
saying?
They take 'em all.
Yep.
They'll own them all.
And it's
So
a
just tell me where
completely
one house
unrelated
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fall
right.
and slip.
No, he's a good dude. I can't do that.
No,
Well, what
yeah.
you need to do is give them a heads up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Get them an agent
Get 'em in
that
here.
can take care of them.
Get them in here, and
Every day.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll take care of them. But
So that wall that you're talking about
That's
is
right.
that.
that's correct.
Yeah.
It just
Protection
disappeared,
of buffer.
basically.
You know, and when I
People don't
mention those
understand it
retirement
well.
plans,
They
they're for,
think
they're ideal for these qualified retirement plans, defined benefit plans are ideal for real estate investors and you know, high-powered real estate brokers that are making over 160,000 a year.
Oh.
So
And,
it's,
and I just the other
it's
end
really
of
a
it
great
is
space.
not just someone falling and suing, but the same issue of with the residential, for you to remind as well, is if something criminal happens, the state now can go also just the same against all
Yeah.
those homes. So now it becomes a criminal state because what happens is if you get caught, and I know this from personal family experience, if someone in your family gets caught making drugs in a
Yeah.
residence, the state can immediately foreclose upon that property and seize it.
Yes.
Well, guess what happens? They get to seize all of them.
Properties.
So they had one house, and one house is a meth house, and all the rest are mom and dad with their little family, but one industrious drug makers in one house.
Really?
That house gets busted. The state doesn't mean they necessarily will,
But they
but
could
they now
for
can
the
go after
exposure.
all of them. That's
Sure.
correct.
Including their primary residence?
Yeah.
No,
Or any
well,
additional
Well, what
investment
happens is
type?
the
Depends how big
prosecutors
this-
go to the judge
Right.
and say, "Hey, there's one here. What's to say there's not one in all these
Right,
places?
and
We
the-
should go check just to be sure." And
Well,
the judge
and
says,
not even
"Yeah,
that, they
you're
have the right to
And then-
foreclose on it.
Do you
They have
have
seizure
to-
rights.
Do you have to have how do I want to say this? So I have to use realism, right? Like, so I
Yeah,
own
sure.
a property.
Yeah,
She's leasing it from me. She's
Yeah.
making meth. I have no idea.
yeah, industrious person. Yeah,
I'm liable,
yes,
even
yes.
if we have no existing prior or otherwise
Yes.
relationship.
Doesn't matter. You're liable.
Really?
Yes.
You can't.
And
be
the
liable.
and the state of Michigan
See,
will
this
come
is all
in.
news to me. I
Yeah.
learn
It's
something
interesting
cool
because
every
you can.
day.
You're supposed
you
to
can-
vet
So
your-
there's
your-
way there's
your-
Absolutely.
a lot of times a
Absolutely.
lease will
Yeah.
say a lot of times a lease will say like any criminal
Yes.
activity, and it
Prohibiting,
depends on how the prosecutor
and
looks
that's
at it. Like
standard lease
liable,
that I use.
just because you're liable is a just because you're liable for something doesn't mean they're going to go after you for something.
Criminally, you may not get hauled in as the
Criminally,
owner. They're not going
right.
to haul you in and say, "Oh well, we knew you were in cahoots."
Right.
But they'll turn around and say, "But yeah, but you made drugs. The drugs were made in your property."
So the civil suit can.
So
get
let's
the-
assume they
You
blow
guys
through the front
could.
door in the process of going after the meth house,
Yeah.
and they wreck the whole front of your
Oh, yeah,
house.
they're not.
They're
yeah,
not repairing it.
No way.
No.
They're not gonna. Well, okay, right.
It
So
has
that's
some
all part of.
exposure.
Well, you have no recourse,
And it
and you're
doesn't
depending on
include
your
all the other
policy.
suits that are gonna come from the neighbors.
That's correct.
Because there were
Toxic chemicals.
toxic
All of it,
chemicals
that's
being
correct.
exposed.
Absolutely
And
correct.
you
So-
can
So be careful where you buy your property. That's what I'm hearing.
keep
Back to the right.
That's-
Back to
That
where
is
we
tricky
started.
talking, but
It's just.
Well, you gotta have a good
complex.
agent.
That's
yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
You gotta have a good
that's
agent.
brilliant.
And I think just the legal fiction thing, it's you got to be really careful about what those walls are, and you got to understand
Yep.
that it's not just sending a piece of paper to the Secretary of State and
Yeah.
you're good. It's a lot more than that, you know.
Nope.
Have a good lease if you're going to do it. And I have to take back the comment I just made because meth is made in some pretty unsuspected by
Oh,
me
yeah.
places.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You just
Well, you wouldn't
never
know.
know what
Yeah, you
the
would
shit
never
is
know
out
where.
there.
Breaking
You just
Bad,
assume
right?
that- Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Made in an RV. That's right, by an
Yeah.
industrious teacher. Yeah, it could be anything, anywhere. But that's right. And or even not even meth. It's weed. It's still just marijuana,
Yeah, simple,
Sure.
yeah.
right? Which is still the same deal. The feds can come in and kick your door down, and
Grow
boom,
houses.
right? And it shows up.
I have
They know.
homeowner policies that
Cover it.
was supposed
that's
to.
the-
It was supposed to be a rental. And
I'm
it's-
waiting for that line item to show up in the MLS. I go into houses all day long, like, oh, there's the grow room. Would you like to see the
Yeah,
grow
it's
room?
going to be crazy because it's
It's a
still
real
in this
thing.
weird situation, right? Where
Yeah.
states
Well, it's-
say
yeah,
it's
they're
fine,
standing on
and the
10th
federal
Amendment.
It's gonna
government
be-
says it's illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certain
So
things.
that's-
And-
least
Yeah,
it's meth.
30 by
Right
40
now.
grow room.
Right.
You know?
Lights
At least
included.
meth.
Illegal.
Everybody says it's
All of
crazy.
it, yeah.
Well, guys, so my next question is then, our next segment is ponderings. So ponder, pontificate, spin upon yarns.
Wax
Today's
poetic.
topic was actually in that space, the 7 tips to say I'm sorry in business. So, what's your favorite, Ellen? Because you're the person amongst all of us that is the most in touch with the human element of being people. Yeah.
I thought a lot of what was in the article was pretty good. You know, the gist of the idea of separating the apology from forcing someone to accept
Or
the
explaining
terms
it, yeah.
or explaining or
Yeah.
rehashing.
Right. Excusing.
Yes, I think often what the biggest mistake that I see business owners make who are the managers of people, because this is a difficult dynamic to manage, right, is figuring out, first of all, how to actually apologize in a sincere way that takes responsibility for the action that was in violation of somebody else's space or whatever. So just taking ownership, taking responsibility for whatever mistake was made, I think is the most important element of that. And once you're able to do that, just accepting the responsibility and then leaving it there and not forcing the other party to either accept it in the moment or have a discussion about rehashing what happened.
Well, you said it earlier. It's in the service of the airline. It's how they handled it, right? Not
That's
that
exactly
that
right.
airline story was not about their mistake, but
Right.
but like any mistake, it's how you handle
That's
it.
right.
I think, and just accept the responsibility and don't excuse it. And then what your next step is, how to make it right with the client
That's absolutely
in whatever way. So
yeah. Everybody makes mistakes. It's how you respond that matters.
Yep. So my bad.
So do you own it?
You have to
That's
own
it.
it.
That's it,
I
right?
think you have to own it.
Responsibility
Right, you
Yeah.
own it.
and respect for others, showing that
Like
respect.
I made a mistake buying that Lenovo box to deliver quality streaming for everyone watching us.
No,
See?
but they
That's
called
it.
and said they're very sorry and they're sending a tech out. And
Hopefully.
they'll be here.
Yeah, after he gets here from China, where he made that box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
One
funny.
thing that comes up a lot is, and it's mostly in medical malpractice, but they don't. Lawyers and insurance people will say, "Don't apologize,"
Right.
because then you're admitting fault.
That's
Mhm.
right.
And I would just say a couple things, right? One, if it is your fault, that's gonna come out,
Yeah.
right?
In
And
court.
nobody's gonna sue you, and their only piece of evidence is your apology,
Yeah.
right? They're gonna find more. They're gonna get all the evidence.
Well,
You can't
So if
hide
you're
it.
liable,
So if you're
liable,
liable,
right.
apologize and try and work it out
Well,
before
you-
it goes to court.
Well,
Right,
we,
right.
the old days we would respond that, if you tried to make any kind of payment or any kind of restitution or you did anything like that, that's setting the stage, that's the groundwork for admitting guilt and opening yourself up to
Usually-
something much bigger.
Usually, most states, I don't do a ton of litigation, so I can't say for sure. Usually, the rules of evidence will say that you can't admit an offer of settlement to prove fault. Usually. But I would also
But
say,
it happens all the
general,
time. Does it not?
well, not if the rules say it doesn't. No. I mean, I don't do a lot of litigation type stuff, but I would say that if it's gray, there are still ways you can apologize and still ways that you can say I'm sorry that are genuine, that don't admit fault. And it's a little complex, but right, if James's grandma dies, I can say, James, I'm sorry your grandma died. Okay, it's not my fault, clearly.
you did. You
Well, it
murdered.
could be my
no.
fault. But there's ways to sort of apologize and still express regret that something bad happened.
Sure.
And if you're not sure whose fault it is
Empathy.
or it's iffy, you still want you still want to show empathy. You don't want to just
And,
be like
you know,
clamming up.
honestly, the expression of empathy in those situations makes people so much less likely to be
Sue
so
you.
pissed off
Right.
Yeah,
that
no,
they feel
I get it.
litigious and they feel the
100%.
need to come after you
That's
in some way.
Well, I've yet to be in a
So-
situation where admitting guilt was going to create some kind of like
Problem.
Animosity or worse.
total devastation to me financially or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, I screwed up. I'm so sorry, and I have like
It happens. Whatever.
missed a family member on a policy. It was like, oops,
Sure.
there's a big problem.
Yeah.
We fixed it,
That's
but
why you have
it
yours
was
in the mission.
Yeah.
it was like a oops, that's a big
Yeah.
problem.
That's why you have
you
your
know.
resolution.
There's a great saying, crow is best eaten warm. If
There you
you
go.
know
That's
you
awesome.
screwed
There you
up,
go.
you should
Yeah.
admit
I heard that
it very quickly.
Hey, they're
and
still
eat
they're probably
crow
my
while it's
most
still
loyal
warm.
client today because it's like it's
Yeah.
okay, John. We know what happened last year,
Yeah.
but we want to work with you this year. So.
Yeah. And in healthcare, hospitals that have started eating their crow very warm have shown cost savings.
Yeah.
Right? You'd think as a malpractice attorney that a hospital that apologizes and offers to settle up front it's gonna cost them all this money. No. From a
right.
purely financial standpoint, they are so far
I'd see
ahead.
that, sure.
Because
Mm-hmm.
the second a lawsuit's filed, it's like your
Right.
insurance rates go up, you gotta pay
Right.
legal fees,
It's
all
on.
this stuff.
Yep.
It's a battle now, right?
Right.
And
It's
the
a battle.
communication stops. Is
Right.
Well,
what
that's
it is.
right. Exactly right.
Yep.
All right, guys, before we wrap up, you got to give your tip of the week for the viewer out there. So we're going to start with you, Dave, just because we started with John when
Well,
we
I
started.
think that was really the message I wanted to get across today, because I've been involved in a couple of things where they didn't divulge some entities that existed, and it created some huge liability for those entities. And had I known that, so
Could have saved
if
the
you
trip.
own businesses and you have multiple corporations, LLCs, partnerships, whatever, DBAs, anything that you've ever run your business, your name under, you put yourself out there as that, regardless if that's part of your LLC or your corporation. You need to divulge that and make sure it's on your insurance policies. Please.
He's like, please.
I'll be begging you.
Right?
We going around.
Yep, that's right.
So my tip of the week has to do with time management, and this is also something I get asked about a lot.
I got time for that.
And so my tip of the week around time management is, I think we're really good at putting appointments and meetings and scheduled things into our calendars. What I think many of us overlook is the importance of putting our task list into our calendar. And when we don't put that task list into our calendar and actually set aside blocks of time to deal with the things that are on that task list, what happens?
Your
We
email
get
drives what you do.
That's right. We respond to the things that
Teach
come
it, oh
at
my
us.
God, I so get it.
The whole day
And
goes
we-
by and it's still there.
Or exactly, the whole day,
Yeah.
the whole week, the whole month goes
Yeah.
by, and all of a sudden you're saying, "Oh shit, I still have this task list that won't go away." So, calendar your task list. That's my
Yeah.
tip of the week.
That's
like
good
that.
for years.
All right.
That's
I have
pretty
to.
spiffy.
I like that.
I'd have to say the tip of the week is for you guys to not procrastinate on getting in front of planning your financial situation. I know this sounds similar to the prior weeks because at the end of the day is the most common thing that people do that they keep
Yeah.
screwing up. They think, oh, well, next week it'll be different for me and I'll do it then. Or next month when I get this big contract, I'll do it then. Or a year from now when I get my first 3 employees, I'll do it then. Then it's too late because you got the ball rolling and now you have to play catch up, let alone plan.
Yeah.
Best to start not maybe from day 1, but day 5 or 9 after you've launched your business through the proper filing of your forms, bought your or leased your space you're going to live in, got your coverage to make sure you don't lose it all in a lawsuit, and you've properly scheduled all your tasks. You're going to come in and see me and say, I got my task scheduled, my ass is covered, I know where I'm going to start my business.
Yeah.
How do I make money out of this to make my money work? I made $10 so far. Good, you got 9 going out. Let's talk about your last dollar. And that is the job that I'll bring to the table for anyone that sits down in front of us. But don't wait to
Right.
do that. Don't kick that ball down the road. I know you're a busy entrepreneur, but don't do it. Don't.
Put it in your calendar.
That's right. Put it in your calendar.
Procrastination.
Get on James's calendar. He sends
That's
out
it.
invites. He'll put it on your calendar for you.
That's
I
right.
sure
There you
will.
go.
I'll invite you, like it or not.
So my tip is just, when you have an agreement with somebody, when you have a lease, when you have a contract, when you have anything like that, make sure that you put it in writing. And I think that's well known, but go a step further. Make sure that the writing actually tells what's going on. Make sure that it's detailed. Make sure it's not ambiguous. Make sure that it just says everything that's coming up. Because if you don't do it up front, it creates all kinds of problems down the line.
Right on.
I get to do one? I
You
have
get to
one.
do it.
Okay.
Let her fly.
My tip of the week is something nobody told me when I started my business, and it is take the time to define your ideal client so that you can attract your ideal client. Otherwise,
great
you
value.
will define yourself by bouncing up against a lot of messy
Yeah.
things, messy experiences.
You won't be working with your ideal client if you don't define them.
You
That's
won't,
right.
and they're
That's
harder
right.
to find.
That's
so
right.
define
Great.
it and do it. It doesn't even take that long, and it's kind of fun.
Cool.
And you're our ideal client, by the way.
It's great.
No, but-
Just you.
But,
Any one of you. All of you.
And another excellent tip from the squad.
So I would say, everybody, all these small businesses have their group health insurance plan, and that's one of the things I do. Don't procrastinate. And if you want to get a thorough look at your alternatives, start shopping at least 3 months prior to the renewal date. But you can shop anytime during the year, by the way. So
Is there like a best time to shop?
3 months before your renewal date is
Whenever.
right
Right,
now,
yeah.
and a lot of companies. I'll just jump in real quick. A lot of companies think that they have a problem with their deductible on their current insurance plan if they tried to make a mid-year change. That's not necessarily the case. There's several carriers that will actually honor deductibles paid for the first half of the year or whatever if you do make a change. So there's options and there's some very good options out there, but you
Yes.
need some time to investigate them, and it takes time to get them in place. So
You need to
Awesome.
tell us your story so we can do the right thing.
we can make sure you
Exactly.
get the right right
That's
program
right.
to
Yep.
suit your needs. So, and that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Oh, those of you out there that have watched today, thank you. Share us, subscribe to us, pass us along to the social media streams. We appreciate all you do to help us grow our presence. We're up to 42 subscribers, and we love you all. And if you remember back last week, it was 30, so we picked up 12 in a week. So we're
Hey, that's a
moving.
pretty good rate, guys.
That's
Yeah.
moving pretty good. And also look for some improvements on our show over the weeks to come. We're bringing in some people that can do things that we can't do. See, we eat our own soup around here.
That's right.
And that's it.
Tell us about the sound quality.
Yeah, right. Let us know, right, about the
Tell us about
kerfuffle.
anything.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. No doubt. Tell us about anything. We're game.